All right, this is part 2 of a 2-part series of us interviewing Tower Paddle Board Company. What an incredible story, the biggest success story on Shark Tank. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, but make sure you check out episode 1. The link is in the description below, or hit the thumbnail and enjoy.
We were doing about $7.5 million a year, and we walked away from that revenue. If people go on there, Shark Tank with like a $20, $40 product, those are the people that can sell $1 million. This was a diversification, but also a cost-cutting measure. And I think a lot of companies should be looking at how they can do that. People don't consider your product development and design marketing necessarily, but in my opinion, that's 70% of the ballgame.
Let's quickly touch on building an effective team. What are some tips, tricks on what you could share with our viewers on doing that? How are you able to sell the paddle boards at such a discount direct to consumer?
I mean, the first thing is it's just a commit to that. Like, this is going to be our price point. It's really like, what is our price point and how do we want to arrange our business model? So we opted out of traditional retail and we just went direct to consumer. And a lot of companies start direct to consumer and then they get sort of intoxicated by these big contracts. I can go into Walmart or something like that. And you really just got to put that aside and say, we're not going to compete. And that's where 90% of retail goes. So those are much bigger markets, but we just want to dominate in the online space because that's the space that is growing. Retail is dying. But today, you're giving 50% of your revenue to Amazon or Google. And that's really where the world is going. That's why they're trillion-dollar companies, because they're sucking all of the profit. We walked away from Amazon. We were doing about $7.5 million a year in 2015-16, and 4.5 of that was through Amazon. And in 2017, we said this ship has sailed, and we walked away from that revenue. But now we're able to undercut everybody on price. And so that is really why we grew, 100% last year.
Tell us a little bit about where we are. I know we didn't do a quick walkthrough, so I want to take you through this location. So you pay lease of how much every month?
This is $8,500 a month. So we had on the main strip over there in San Diego, we had a big retail store, and we were paying $7,200 a month. And this is a cost-cutting measure because we came over here, we took an old kayak shop, and we refurbished it, and we built a deck. Because we're on waterfront here, and we made a 4,500 square foot, basically event venue. And so now we rent this out for weddings, for corporate events and stuff like that. We have our offices here in the back.
So they're here, okay.
And then we do pop-up retail inside here. So it basically covers the cost of our retail and our offices, and then we collect rent from the venues. So this was a diversification, but also a cost-cutting measure. A lot of people, they see this and they think this is like an extravagance for this, internet company. No, this is a cost-cutting measure. This is a diversification, and I think a lot of companies should be looking at how they can do that. Like how they can create offline businesses that can sort of cover some of the costs of your online businesses. So this is all fairly new. We moved into this facility about 2 months ago.
Look at this.
So yeah, here you go. And so we're a direct-to-consumer e-commerce warehouse. So, UPS trucks pick it up out the back. The containers are unloaded out the back.
The paddleboard heaven.
Yes, this is paddleboard heaven.
And electrical bike heaven.
We got the e-bikes.
Nice.
And the paddleboard. And we're starting to ramp up right now. So in the next probably 30 to 45 days, this is going to double.
Wow.
Yeah. So the whole place fills up.
Just the season is coming? Is that?
Well, yeah, the season is coming, and so we sort of stock up there. And then last year was crazy with the pandemic. Both electric bikes and paddleboards were a good, social distancing sport. So both of these exploded.
Wow.
Well, our event space went to zero because you couldn't have events. This is where the diversification comes in.
Activities kicked in. Okay.
We're subleasing out the front section of this to a scooter company. But this is sort of our overflow valve right now. Okay. And we've prepared for future growth, because if you look at our paddleboard business grew 80% last year. Our e-bike business grew 500% last year. We're very quickly going to fill up this space. So we kind of, when we moved into this space, we wanted to future-proof it.
Right.
So we're leasing to them for a while, and when we need that space, we're going to take it back.
Let's quickly touch on building an effective team, right? You clearly have one. What are some tips, tricks on what you could share with our viewers on doing that?
You know, I think it's just about, they got to align with the company. We happen to be, you know, in Southern California, and we're starting a surf brand, but it's a surf brand, but it's also sort of a direct to consumer. So it's kind of a tech brand too. So I think people see that and they say, well, that's something I'm interested in, but I could also go in there and learn some valuable skills. So I think there's value in people coming here. Cuban is always sort of funny. He always thinks people should pay him to work for him, right? And he's got kind of a point, and that's kind of how we view this company. And then, you know, so initially we didn't pay them very much, and you know, we worked them like you know, startup hours, but to become a big company, like how are we going to do that? And so we had to kind of change our how we recruit people.
Right.
And so we went to our 5-hour workday at that point in 2015.
And you wrote a book on that, right?
The 5-hour workday.
Yeah. So for those that don't know anything about it, in a nutshell, what is it about?
It's not like we go to part-time working. Like, everybody is still expected to be as productive as they were before, or we'll fire them. So
Gotcha.
we're training people to be efficient and training them to use basically productivity tools, and that's just sort of a mindset of our company.
What was your revenue for 2020, and how is it divided amongst the different products that you have? And maybe touch on profit margins. Do they vary from bikes to paddle boards?
Yeah, the bike business isn't very profitable right now because we're growing into it. There's a lot of waste in this.
Okay.
So we did about 4.1 million last year.
In bikes.
In bikes,
Okay.
and we doubled revenue because we were at 2 million. So we've gone through this growth where incredible growth all the way up to 7.5 million, all the way back down to 2 million. We refocused direct to consumer. Now we doubled the business last year. We'll grow to about 6 million this year. That's where we're on pace for it. And then next year we believe about 9.5 million. And that's because the bikes are the new paddle boards. That's the one that's really sort of exploding.
Interesting.
And the paddle boards are a very solid growing base.
What about the paddleboards, revenue-wise, for last year? And I know it's the crazy, you know, pandemic.
Yeah. So they're probably, I would say, 80% of our revenue last year.
Okay.
And we expect the e-bikes to probably surpass those in 2 years. So we'll be doing more revenue in e-bikes than paddleboards.
What would be, you know, under a short answer in terms of a best strategy for an e-commerce business site? You know, what's been successful for you, or maybe what's been some flops in terms of marketing, which you do very little, because again, the direct to consumer. So this may or may not apply, but
well, I don't know. It's not that we don't do much marketing. It's that our marketing is very product and content focused. So those are the tips of the spear. Like, you have to create an incredible product, and if you create that incredible product, the rest of the marketing is very easy. It sort of flows naturally from there. So people don't consider your product development and design marketing necessarily, but in my opinion, that's 70% of the ball game. So that's really what you do, and it's your product and your value proposition. So we've sort of tried to master both those things, and then the rest of the marketing takes care of itself. And really, as an SEO company, we're a content marketing company. We basically create a library that sells stuff. And so people find us because they, you know, saw an interesting video on how to fix brakes or something like that. They learn something from us, they sort of trust us, and they say, I like these guys, I'll check out the products they have. And then they see the incredible product at the incredible price, and they're like, oh, you know, I'll buy that, and then they tell their friends.
Right.
So it's old school marketing.
yeah, we've heard actually, you know, talking about content marketing. Check out some of our videos with Mike Andes, because we talked about content marketing in terms of building a business plan and starting up a business. So check that out, you guys. When you got on the show, and I think we've asked this before, but I want to touch on it real quick. What was the revenue post that? Did you expect it? Did it meet your expectations? Were you surprised?
I mean, like, in the first 4 days from the airing, it was 60,000 in sales over a 4-day period. So 15,000 a day. But you know, the few days before, just from the press we got, we were up at about a $5,000 a day run rate.
Gotcha.
So there was a bump, but it wasn't like a crazy bump. And I think part of that was our product. You know, we had a paddleboard. Well, we're half-price paddleboards. It's still, you know, $500, $600, $700 purchase. That's a considered purchase. If people go on there, you know, Shark Tank with like a $20, $40 product, those are the people that can sell $1 million, because that's people say, oh, I want one of those. They dial it up on their phone and they buy it.
Easy money.
They don't really do that with a paddleboard. So we got brand name recognition, but it's not so much in sales right away.
Any last words of advice? Just take the general sense of businesses. We've got all kinds of viewers here. What would you say? 3-4 words in terms of tips, suggestions, and advice in terms of building a business, e-commerce business, anything.
I think it's a challenging business world right now, and you need to figure out how to make your business like anti-fragile, and that's keeping a low burn rate, and you got to be able to operate in chaos, and you got to be able to like move from one strategy to the next strategy. Don't fall too in love with whatever's working today, because it's probably not going to work in 3 years.
Okay, well said. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. We wish you all the best.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap for our 2-part series of this incredible company. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I hope you took some golden nuggets, and make sure you guys execute on what we talk about here. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, hit that bell so you don't miss any announcements about new episodes coming up, and check out our blog. It's upflip.com/blog. It's there for you, an abundance of resources on how to start businesses, grow them, and be successful. Thank you for watching.